Hello and welcome, or welcome back. My name is Annalisa. I'm a knitter based in London, and it's Sunday, and I've been having a bit of a tricky week. Not tricky, just heavy week. So I've just been trying to do things like that bring me joy today, and one of those things is chatting about my knitting. So we are going to do that. It's nothing super dramatic. Maybe I'll talk about it next time or when I'm feeling like it. But right now, if that's sort of my energy or my enthusiasm feels low, that's probably why. I'm still very enthusiastic about my knitting. So yeah, thanks for being here with me and just listening to me ramble about knitting because yeah, I enjoy it. Today, I am going to talk about all of my whips. I have no finished objects. I have a couple acquisitions, but mostly I just have like project updates on all of the pile of stuff that's happening right here. So this is stuff I've just been working on mostly for the last month. I did actually film a vlog. I went to the Cotswolds for a weekend in February, and it was lovely. We had friends visiting, and we took them out to the Cotswolds, and we had a lovely weekend in a little cottage, and I thought I would try vlogging. And I gotta tell you, that did not come naturally to me at all. I thought, you know, I like put very little pressure on it. I was like, if this doesn't turn out, it doesn't turn out, and we don't post it. But I think kind of going back over the footage and stuff, it just felt very like undirectional. I don't know if that's a word. Lacking direction, lacking focus, lacking like, I don't know, just felt really pointless and boring. Like, I'm sure I look at like other people's, you know, vlogs that I watch and I love them when they're kind of pointless and boring. Mostly because I have them on in the background while I'm doing other stuff. But for some reason I just, yeah, struggled with it a little bit. So I don't think I'm going to end up doing anything with that. But I did start to feel better about it towards the end. I'd get on camera and I'd just be like, what am I even talking about? Why am I here? And then I'd like, yeah, but towards the end I started to get a little bit more comfortable with it. So I do have a weekend trip coming up in March where I'm going on a knitting retreat, and I kind of want to try and vlog that, at least some of that. Maybe it'll just be a shorter video and I'll just kind of give a little bit of an overview, but at least that will have like a focus and a direction around knitting stuff as opposed to this, which was more of just, we're in the Cotswolds for the weekend, and I will be knitting because I always knit, and therefore it just felt weird to be talking about knitting. I don't know. Anyway, with that, let's just get into the knitting. Let's just start there. Most of these, I think all of these you've seen. We're just making our way through it. So the first one I'm going to talk about is my Homestead landscape sweater. So I'm getting there with this. I am almost at the point where I was going to stop and start doing some embroidery to see if I can get the detail. So I've worked on this just a couple times over the last couple weekends. It's not a travel project. It's not something that's easy to pick up. I very much have to like sit down, focus, and like get all of the balls of yarn out. Oh, I forgot to talk about what I'm wearing. This is my Flora sweater by Irene, and it is I believe it's DK weight. I held 2 fingering weight, kind of like greens together. It creates like this marl, which I love. It is a beautiful pattern. I love the pattern. It's got this like lace detail, raglan with like beautiful twisted rib detail all down the side. It's got these, yeah, it's the same detail on the bottom here. I love this sweater. It's like one of my favorites that I've made. And it is I would absolutely knit it again. I think if I knit it again, to be totally honest, I probably wouldn't do the like lace bits, which seems kind of funny because like that's obviously the design, but I would just do this again with like twisted rib details into the, you know, thick raglan and even like the twisted rib on the bottom. And then it does, this is a 3 needle bind off, I think, which creates this, whatchamacallit, sort of lateral braid detail. And yeah, I just do that. And I think it could be super chic in like a dark color. But yeah, love the pattern, would recommend the pattern. I find lace can be tricky. I've got some ideas of, I don't know, I feel like I can read my knitting much better with cables than I can with lace. Like I find you almost have to like wait for it to emerge from the stitches when you're knitting lace. And I find that a little bit tricky, trusting the process as opposed to like just doing what I feel like is the right thing to do at that time. Anyway, so this is my, Flora sweater, Irene Lynn. Love it. I knit this last year. I think I finished it kind of early last year. So anyway, all right, Homestead. So Homestead, this is a pattern that I kind of knew I was going to adapt when I started it. I wanted to create a sort of landscape style, mohair style sweater, except for I don't like mohair, so I'm doing it in brushed alpaca, drops brushed alpaca for the most part. There's a couple brushed alpacas in here that are not drops. And I just have been sort of going with the flow of this giant intarsia project. I printed out basically how I have approached this is I knew I wanted to make some changes to make it a little bit more of what I had in my head and a little bit less of the Homestead sweater as she's designed it. She's designed it, I think, for 2 or 3 strands of drops air. I think 2 strands of drops air. I'm doing this with 3 strands of drops brushed alpaca. And because I wanted that more like fluffy, watercolory vibe to it. And then I printed out the chart that she created, and I just kind of like drew on it some changes. So I tried to do it in stitch fiddle, and then I realized stitch fiddle is more complicated than I could wrap my head around at the time. So I just decided to do a bit of a manual job and did, you know, actual drawing on a sheet of paper and kind of went around and basically some of the changes that I made, I'll show mine and I'll put up her picture, is just a few bits and pieces. So this is where we're at. We're almost at the point where I would stop and start working on the like embroidery bits to try and get some more detail out of this, because the gauge is quite large. I'm knitting this on, I think, 8mm needles, but I am pretty happy with like how it's looking, you know, like I'm really happy with how the sky is looking. I actually love that, except for the purple. I don't know why I did that. I did this like line of purple down here. I spent a lot of time looking at like sunrises and sunsets and trying to figure out how color gradients work, because it's one of those things where you're like, oh, it's an orange sky, but it's not just an orange sky. It's like an orange sky that leads into blue and green and all this color. So I'm pretty happy with how that's actually turned out. And then I've got some clouds going in there. She has clouds in hers. I made mine bigger. The other difference you can see, I've added this tree that's sort of like more in the foreground. She has one in the like far, in the kind of further back. And then I added some plants around the house, so like trees and stuff around the house. I've obviously done loads of different colors with the fields and things like that. You can't really see them because the contrast is really low, but I've got ducks instead of swans. And then I've got to add more detail to the sheep. I also need to add some sheep because I'm missing a couple of them. I just decided I'd go back and add them. But yeah, overall, I like, it looks nice. I do think it's a very loose gauge. This is probably my yarn choice more than the pattern. I don't know. I think the drops air probably would fill this out a little bit more. But yeah, we're going to see. We're just going to see how it goes. The next step is to kind of weave in ends, fix holes that I've definitely left, add some detail to some of the elements that I wanted to add detail to with kind of more embroidery stitches. And like I'm missing, you can see like I'm missing the door on the house, and I want to maybe add some windows and like, yeah, lots of little things that I can improve on here. But yeah, so I'm basically going to get through the clouds. So I'm sort of, I think I'm only a few rows away from that. I might try and finish that today and then go back, weave in ends. I mean, the back was a disaster. We'll just pretend that's not there. But no, I will be going back in and like sorting out the end situation at the back, and then going in, doing some detail, adding some other colors, and seeing if I like it enough to keep going as like a garment, or if I want to do something with this. So a couple of ideas of like, some people have offered ideas in the comments. One of them is sort of like you could turn it into a cushion, and or you know, even just like a wall hanging or something. And those are definitely options. It's not quite my decor style, so I think that for me is a maybe. I have thought about like, could I turn it into a project bag by like lining it with something? If I don't want to do that, or I just do this as a sweater and keep going with it and then wear it as a sweater. That's another option. And then at some point do the version that I have in my head that's a little bit more detailed in terms of like the gauge, so that I can add more detail to it in the stitches. But yeah, I'm definitely, now that I can kind of see the picture coming to life, like I'm definitely enjoying it a little bit more. But and can see it working. It's just I'm reserving judgment until I do the stages. This is just how I have to go, like not jump ahead too far, just go with how it's feeling and how I'm feeling about it, and then yeah, not rushing decisions. So that is my Homestead sweater, where I'm at now, and hopefully the next time you see this, it will have some detail. And I'll be able to say whether or not I'm actually going to move forward with this as a garment or as something else, or just put it on ice until I can make that decision. So that is that. We're going to put you over here in my have discussed file. The next one I'll talk about is my socks. So I guess technically this is the finished object in that I have finished one of them. This is the sock I have finished. These are DK weight socks. These are the Summerly DK ribbed sock. I'm holding 2 strands of Ching fiber, and I don't remember the colorway, but if I have it, I'll put it somewhere. Thank you for people who explained to me how to pronounce that, because I think I was calling it Quing or something. And this is their sock base, or a sock base of theirs. Do I have the ball band in here? Yes, I do. That would be more helpful. Nope, that's the wrong one. All right, we'll just go with this. It's a lovely fun sock color, and then I've added like 2 stripes at the top, which is just scrap superwash sock yarn that I have in my stash. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with these. I tried this on, so I realized that one of the things I did wrong here was I cast on too tightly, and like considering these are like house socks type thing, like these are definitely cozy house sock type socks. I accidentally cast on with the wrong needle size too, so I went down a needle size. I don't remember why. I think I misread the pattern, or I just wasn't thinking, and so I was like, oh, I did 3 rows of that. And then I went to the right needle size, and that, I didn't think that was going to be a big issue because, of course, I guess if I had been doing like a normal sock, it probably wouldn't, but it does feel a little tight when I'm trying to get it on. I think it's fine. I can still get it on. And in the second pair, which I am part of the way through, so this is where we're at with the second pair, I have cast on very loosely, and it's much more stretchy up here. And I think, yeah, so I'll have one that fits perfectly and then one that's like a little tight when I just try and go to like actually put it on, but I think that's okay. I am still enjoying these. This was great to have with me on like car trips around the Cotswolds and stuff. And yeah, no rush on this, but it is the one that's like the easiest to travel with. So I like having this, and I think I am really enjoying the DK versus like sock yarn socks, like just fingering weight socks at the moment, just because that is how I use most of my hand knit socks. Is I tend to just like wear them around the house, and they're like my cozy socks. The other 3 projects, so this one's actually, I haven't done anything on, but I have found yarn that I'm going to use in my Carta vest. So my Carta vest is one that I've had on needles for a while now. It's been a pretty slow project. It's never been like a priority project, but it is, it's been fun to work on. I attempted to dye some of my yarn to kind of match it, because basically it's from the yarn that I was using is from a reclaimed cashmere sweater that I bought ages ago, and I have knit up the front 2 panels in this lovely herringbone stitch. And it became very clear that I was going to run out of yarn on the back, so I wanted to be a little bit strategic about where I placed the yarn on the back, like whether or not I do it in sort of stripes or if I just do it on the ends, or yeah, how I do that. And so I was looking for something. I attempted to dye some yarn to go with this, and it didn't quite come out the right color. And so I took some of this yarn to my local yarn shop and found a yarn that I'm happy to pair this with. So that is this one here. So it is 100% wool. This is sort of a worsted weight to Aran weight, which is kind of goes with what I've got, and color-wise, I think it goes really nicely. So let me just see if I can, it kind of picks up the lighter tones in the sort of marled color that's here. And it was definitely the closest and the one that I liked the most when I was looking for something. So I need to cast on the back of this. I still have about enough, like I have like basically another one of these to do of this yarn. And so I'm gonna be using that with this yarn in some combination, probably sort of stripes or, yeah, I'll figure it out. And then the other thing is that I think I might end up making these wider. I'm not 100% sure. I kind of want to go back to the measurements and see that again, but I think I'm going to want this a little bit wider. I'm making a size B in width currently, and I'm wondering whether or not I actually want to go to a size C in width. So you can do like, there's different length and different width sizes for this pattern. The next stage, the other reason why I haven't cast this on is because it's a Judy's Magic cast on, and I've never done that, and so that will be an adventure. But it was an adventure I didn't really have the mental capacity for in the last couple of weeks. So I think I just need to get it cast on, because once I get it cast on, the actual stitch pattern is one that I enjoy doing, and now that I've done it for a while, I'm actually feel pretty good about it. So that is what I'm doing next with this one, but I'm very happy I found something that I really like the color combination of. It's, you know, it's not as soft as my cashmere, unsurprising, but it is a nice, yeah, it's a nice like twisted, like it has a nice twist to it. It's a nice wool. I like it. And yeah, so that should be more than enough to kind of get me through the rest of this project and allow me to add like width to the body if I want to add width to the body. Because currently those like the width stitches are all on hold on both sides, so I could just pick them back up and do another whatever the next size requires in terms of like stretching that out. So that is my Carta vest. No real progress on it, except for that the big blocker on that was finding yarn to go with it, and now that I've got that, we are good to go. All right, those are my like background whips. I've got two sort of my main whips that I've been working on for the last month or so. Which one do I talk about first? I'll talk about my book club pullover first. So this is book club pullover by Sari Nordlund. I'm knitting this with two, so held together strands of reclaimed cashmere and cashmere wool yarn. One of them is this like, they're both these sort of tealy blue green color, and then one is a got like tweedy flecks in it. So really beautiful. Like I was so drawn to this as the second I saw this yarn, and it kind of inspired the whole sweater. So the idea for this sweater is it's going to be a cable sweater that I embroider some flowers on. And so far we have kind of finished the back panel and then done the front panel, and we are working down the front panel to connect under the arms. I think I've got a little ways to go on that, or at least if the pattern doesn't tell me I have a little ways to go, that I'm going to take a little ways, because otherwise my armholes are not deep enough. So I am really enjoying the pattern. Like I enjoy a cable chart. I think, you know, I think a lot of people have certain critiques of Sari Nordlund's patterns and how they're constructed and how they're explained. I don't find it difficult to work with, and I think this pattern has some of the issues that people have really had an issue with, like how the cable in the back works with the cables on the front. That with the pullover version, it doesn't seem to be as much of an issue, so do with that what you will. I don't find it to be a problem. I have changed the moss stitch for seed stitch, and that was because in the book club pullover, no, the book club cardigan, which is obviously the first one she did and the most popular one, there is moss stitch in like this front area, and then that matches really nicely with the moss stitch on the sides and under the underarms. But in the pullover, it just kind of felt random. So there is seed stitch in the middle of these little diamond cables. And so I figured I'd pick them up, like balance that out basically. One thing that I have started doing differently, and this kind of came off of, I think, a sort of side comment I made when I was talking about this originally, was I had done the back panel and I had done it with the seed stitch in these diamonds. And I had mentioned that like this might not be the wisest choice for then doing embroidery over, because obviously it's texture as opposed to something more flat. And someone commented like, what if you just did the ones with seed stitch that you weren't gonna do embroidery in, and then like do, you know, reverse stockinette on the ones that you do want to do embroidery. And at first I was like, well, I want to do embroidery in all of them. And then I was like, but what if I didn't? Like, what if I actually just did embroidery in some of them and like had them a bit more spaced out? Like, what would that look like? And so I've actually decided I'm going to do that. And what I'm because I've already done the back and I'm not going to rip this out, I will take the back and leave it as is. So I basically will have three diamonds of those with seed stitch. And there's nothing stopping me from eventually adding embroidery into the seed stitch ones. I think that's doable. I think it's perfectly fine. But on the front, I'm basically going to do down the sides, have it be every other one with like seed stitch, embroidery, seed stitch, embroidery. And then down the front, just be 3 with embroidery. Yeah, I think I actually feel really good about that. It is kind of forcing the like commit to doing the embroidery piece. Down the arms, I haven't decided, but we'll get to that when we get there. Yeah, down the arms, I haven't really decided, but like it is definitely forcing me to say like, okay, no, I'm definitely embroidering this. And I think in the back of my mind, I was always kind of like, yes, I'm definitely embroidering this, but there is also the possibility I don't, and I just leave it as a beautiful cable knit jumper. But if you watch sort of my plans and the way that I've talked about this in the past, basically, I'm not planning on doing all of the embroidery in one go. I kind of want to do some of it this year, maybe do some of it next year. Just kind of like pick up the embroidery pieces as and when I feel like doing embroidery. And then, so yeah, so that is all coming together. I think I'm just trying to think if there's there's a couple other modifications that I've made to this. I did a bit of a seam sort of detail along the back here. That's just a personal preference thing. I feel like there's always a line of demarcation when you're kind of connecting cables this way, and I'd rather just acknowledge that than kind of pretend it's not there. I also did twisted stitches in these kind of like line stitches as opposed to just standard knit stitches, which I think is slightly cleaner. I talked about the seed stitch. I am definitely going to be knitting in between sizes, I feel. I think I've already made the back panel longer than initially the pattern calls for. I tend to go for like larger sleeve depths with Sari Nordland's patterns. And yeah, I think that's all for now. I will keep track of some of these notes on what I'm changing. But right now I've just been kind of like slowly working my way through this and enjoying working on it. I definitely have a brain that works well with cable charts. Like and with cables in general, like I find them really easy to work. Like people talk about cables being really involved. I don't find this involved, and I'm not saying that in a braggy way. I'm sure there's like lots of other things my brain can't compute, but this just feels like it's almost the same as stockinette for me, except for that like I just need to keep track of where I am in the pattern. But as long as I can read my knitting, which I can in this one in particular, I find this really meditative and calming to work on. So I am enjoying that. And honestly, like the way that this fabric is knitting up is just beautiful. Like nothing quite brings me as much joy as all these little colorful flecks. And I am pinning like an insane amount of different embroidery things. Definitely have more plans than I have time to embroider, but that is my book club cardigan. So then the final one that I'm working on is my chocolate sweater, also known as my Saglin. So this one's a little bit of a mess right now because everything sort of has balls of yarn attached to it. But let me see if I can make this look a little bit more neat and tidy. I have connected under the arms, done a little bit of knitting under the arms, put on a collar, done the sleeves, almost, this one's like kind of at putting ribbing on it, and then this one is almost at the point where I need to put ribbing on it. So this is the Saglin. I am knitting a size 5, which is definitely on the more oversized. The pattern listing has like images of multiple different types of garments in terms of like both composition of yarn, weight of yarn with the same pattern, like a high neck, slim sleeves, loose sleeves, size, 3 on her, size 5 on her. Like, so it's a very adjustable pattern in that sense. And I decided I wanted something more oversized. I'm definitely gonna have a little bit of like a yarn distribution challenge, but we're working on it. And I think the last time I was working on this, I kind of asked around because I was thinking maybe I wanted to add some detail to because once I started knitting with this, it's just chocolate. It just reminds me of chocolate. And I was like, oh, how can I make this more chocolate boxy? And this was very much meant to be my like simple stockinette, don't overthink it. And of course I overthought it and wanted to do something. So I played around with some ideas under the arms, and I ended up just going with a 3x1 rib. And this comes up later, but this yarn shows absolutely no stitch definition. But this is me like stretching it out. It like you can kind of see it there, and it looks nice, and I'm happy I did it. But it's a very like subtle detail. I did try cables at one point. I ended up like, going back and fixing them, and I'm happy with that. I think, yeah, the other question I asked was around details for the collar, which I was, basically I had seen this collar detail on a Pinterest image that I have saved, and I couldn't figure out where it was from or what was going on. And I had some assumptions of how I might be able to achieve the look. And I think I got so many great bits of advice in the comments in that last video. If you're interested, like there's definitely some people who have more insight into what's actually happening in this image. But there was kind of two approaches. So one of them was like, how do you maybe get this look doing what we would normally do with a collar? And then the other approach was like, okay, what's actually happening in this image and how could you recreate that? So that version looked more complicated. It turns out there's like different directions that these stitches are going, and that some people mentioned sort of a picot edge and then grafting on a collar to like carefully onto that picot edge. And I was like, this feels a little above my pay grade. And also, as I started swatching some ideas for this, it became very clear that like stitch definition, not a thing with this yarn. Like this is not the project to actually do some super intricate detail that involves grafting and picot edges. This is just gonna be, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. So I came up with what I've done for this collar, which I'm pretty happy with. I have not bound off because you will see here, if you look, you can't really see. There's a bulge of like fabric right here, and I can't figure out if that's going to block out or not. So I'm going to, it's on both sides of the collar here, and I'm going to block it before I do the tubular bind off. I've set it up for the tubular bind off. It's all ready to go, but I have not done it because I want to make sure that this blocks out. If it doesn't, I'm going to redo the collar and probably pick up a few more stitches around that area so that it flattens out a little bit. I think that's the solution to this, but I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. So anyway, that point aside, I am basically what I've done. So I'm going to get closer and so you can actually see what I'm talking about. This is how it's looking which is actually, I love it. Like I'm very happy with it. But basically what I did was I did a lateral braid around, well, I picked up the stitches, then I did a lateral braid, then I did 3 rows of double knitting. Oh, I went down a needle size when I did the pickup and the lateral braid. Or I went down 2 needle sizes, which might be some of the puckering. So opportunity to improve there. But basically, yeah. So lateral braid, I did 3 rows of double knitting, so that's 6 rows total. And then I did double decrease. I basically alternated between a double center decrease. Can't remember exactly how you say that, but basically you knit 3 to, yeah. You do it, I'll leave a video of what I did. I think it's Stephen West who does a video on that was helpful for me. But basically decrease 2 and then purled 1. And that has kind of created this flow into, flow into the ribbing. And then I did a twisted rib, a half twisted rib for the remaining. And I'm really happy with how that's like come out. I think it looks sharp and interesting and different and like just a little something extra, but without it being, I don't know, too much. And also within like the limitations of this yarn. It's just, there was just only so much I could do with it. And it's what makes it so like buttery soft and lovely. So I'm not complaining. It's just like, know your yarn and know your project, and like, don't try to make it into something it's not. So I will, so the next steps on this, I'm going to finish the sleeves, then I'm going to continue knitting the body. I have very limited amount of yarn. There's a small chance if I get to like where I get to in the body and I'm not happy with it, that I actually do some kind of like a dip contrast, in which case I would do that on the cuffs and the, basically on all the trim details. So yeah, that is that one. So that's my Saglin. I like the way it fits so far. I've tried it on a couple times. Except for this little bulgy thing. If you know what's going on there, let me know. I think it is just that I've like not picked up enough. I picked it up according to the pattern, but maybe my needle size being smaller was problematic. I can't remember what she asked for in the pattern, to be honest. So that is that. In terms of like arms decreasing, I did like, I rarely pay attention to patterns when it comes to like decreases in the arms. I just kind of do what I feel like doing depending on the garment. And for this one, I felt like keeping it loose at the top of the sleeve and then going like more rapid decreases as I get further down. And then I'll probably do even kind of a round of even more rapid decrease on the cuff into the cuff. And then I'm going to do the same detail that I did with the collar on the cuff. So that lateral braid, double knit, and then lateral braid, double knit, and then into the ribbing. That is everything for now, I think. Acquisitions. I don't have one of them out here, but I did buy a couple balls of yarn in the Cotswolds. Mostly this is for my next pair of DK weight socks. I got these 2 little balls from a pop-up for this brand called Herd. It's a like ready to wear clothing brand where they kind of use very sustainable, locally sourced wool, and they put them into beautifully made in the UK jumpers. I think they're 150 miles from field to fiber. This is 100% blue-faced Leicester, and this is also blue-faced Leicester, but this one's been dyed, and they're naturally dyed. So dyed with natural things. Oh, my brain. I believe they're about DK, although this one definitely feels like, this is the undyed one, and this definitely feels more thicker than this one. This feels actually quite thin, but maybe that's just with the dyeing process. It is the same amount of yardage per 50 grams, so these are about 150 meters. And I'm gonna make another pair of like DK waist socks with these, and I know that, like, again, these are gonna be house socks. It's not the most durable yarn, but I like these colors together. I think they're pretty. So yeah, so I did try on some clothes from this brand. I mean, I was never gonna buy it because it's of all the types of like knitwear that you can make, like this is very close to the type of, like the patterns look very much like knitting patterns that you would find and that I can make. So, but they're beautiful. They're really beautiful stuff. And it's like 300 to 500 pounds. So yeah, we'll just, I tried them on for inspiration. And that is that. In terms of plans, I want to try and finish off my chocolate sweater because I feel like it's kind of still what I want to be wearing right now. It's also what I want to be knitting on right now just because it's simple and my brain is, that's what I can handle. And then I don't have any like big plans to cast new things on. I kind of want to finish off some of these pieces, and then, except for like if I end up doing, you know, if I end up finishing these socks and casting on another pair of socks, that type of thing. But I will say that I have been thinking a lot about like kind of what's next in terms of, you know, as the weather gets a little bit nicer, and I mean, nicer is a really relative term. Today's been like 20 different seasons in one, and we're just, yeah, we're definitely in that like spring period where it's all the weather all the time. But there is definitely a little bit of warming up, and that makes me think of like, you know, what do I want to have in April, May, June on my needles? Maybe I'll do like an update spring knitting plans video, spring, summer. See where I'm at with my thinking on that stuff. But I think that's it for today. Sorry if I've been a bit like subdued. It has put me in a good mood to just chat about all my knitting stuff, and I'm very grateful for everybody who hangs out, especially if you make it to this late in the video of my rambling. And I wish you all a wonderful start to March, and I will see you soon. Bye.